Princess Aelira stood at the top balcony of the palace, her hands gripping the smooth, crystalline railing. Below, the city of Valora shimmered in soft blue and silver light, floating above a sea of clouds that reflected the glow of the setting sun. The city had always been beautiful, proud, and orderly, just like the Valoran Empire itself. But beauty could not hide the truth. Aelira felt trapped. The marriage her parents had arranged for her was approaching, and though the celebrations were meant to bring honor to the empire, she saw it as a cage. Her betrothed, Lord Varen of the Zethurian system, was a powerful noble with influence over neighboring worlds. The council had assured her that this union would strengthen Valora's position in the galaxy, protect trade routes, and ensure peace. Yet every time she thought of the ceremony, Aelira's chest tightened. She could not marry for duty alone. Duty without choice was a prison. "Your Highness," a soft voice called behind her. It was her personal aide, Lauren, a small, quick-witted Valoran who had served Aelira since she was a child. "The council is ready for your briefing. They await your approval of the final preparations." "I will go," she said quietly, though her heart was heavy. "But Lauren, do not forget, I cannot agree to this marriage unless I truly see a reason beyond politics." Aelira walked past them, her flowing silver gown brushing the polished floors. The council chamber was already buzzing with activity. Senior ministers discussed the final arrangements for the wedding, while advisors debated ceremonial procedures. Every face seemed calm, but Aelira sensed tension beneath the surface. "Your Highness," Councillor Merrick said, a tall figure in gold-trimmed robes, "all preparations are complete. The fleet has been notified, the allies have been summoned, and the ceremony will proceed as planned. Your signature is all that is needed." "Councillor," she said softly, "do you truly believe that this marriage will bring peace and stability? Or do you follow tradition because it has always been done? A marriage that does not come from choice is not an alliance. It is a cage. I will not give my life to politics alone." Before anyone could respond, a loud commotion arose from outside the chamber. Guards rushed to the doors and the council froze in alarm. Aelira's brow furrowed. "What is happening?" she demanded. A voice shouted from the hall. "A stranger has arrived." Human, they would later identify him, with dark hair, strong build, and eyes that seemed to observe everything at once. He carried nothing but a small satchel and wore clothing unfamiliar to Valoran eyes, a simple tunic and trousers, unlike the ornate robes of the council. Aelira's heart skipped. Who was this intruder? The council rose, their faces a mixture of outrage and disbelief. "Identify yourself," demanded Merrick, his voice sharp. The human lifted his hands in a calm gesture. "My name is Captain Elias Rhine. I come from a planet called Earth in a distant system. I mean no harm. I wish only to speak." Most civilizations assumed they were fragile, unremarkable, and easily dismissed. Yet something about this man made her pause. He stood with confidence but not arrogance. He seemed aware, thoughtful, and calm. "You cannot enter without permission," Merrick said, trying to assert control. "This is a restricted area. You are trespassing on Imperial grounds." "Impossible. Choices made out of tradition alone may endanger those you wish to protect. Sometimes, a fresh perspective can see what familiarity blinds you to." "Very well," she said slowly. "Speak, human, show us why we should consider your counsel." "They will accept your princess, yet they may act to exploit the situation. Your treaties, though strong on paper, may be vulnerable to interpretation and manipulation. A marriage does not guarantee loyalty. On Earth, we learn that strength is not only in power or tradition, but in adaptability, innovation, and moral clarity. A leader who considers the people, their needs, and the long-term consequences, rather than ceremonial appearances, can prevent catastrophe. I believe that Valora's path should not be dictated solely by duty or protocol. Choice matters. Each word he spoke resonated with the doubts she had carried in silence. The council grew restless. "Your arguments are speculative," Merrick snapped. "You do not understand the complexities of interstellar politics. I offer perspective, not commands. I will hear you out fully. Tomorrow, at the council meeting, you will present your observations and your recommendations. But know this, I will make no decisions without consideration of what is best for my people and myself." Some whispered that this intrusion could be dangerous, a risk to their prestige. But Aelira felt hope. For the first time, she sensed that her voice could matter, that she could act according to reason and courage rather than fear and expectation. As the council dispersed for the evening, Aelira returned to her balcony, gazing at the vast expanse of clouds and stars. Elias had not promised her victory or safety, but he had opened a door, a glimpse of what could be possible when one dared to think differently, when one refused to accept limitations blindly. The human had arrived at the most unexpected moment, and in doing so, he had sparked something within her. It was a mixture of awe, curiosity, and cautious hope. Perhaps this stranger would not only change the fate of her marriage, but the future of Valora itself. Elira inhaled deeply, letting the cool wind wash over her. She knew the days ahead would challenge her, and the path forward would not be easy. Yet for the first time in her life, she felt that choice was within her grasp, and she was ready to embrace it. Somewhere far beyond the palace, among the stars, a new chapter for humanity and for Valora was quietly beginning. The morning sun broke over the crystalline towers of Valora, casting long beams of light across the floating city. Princess Elira stood in the council chamber once more, her silver gown reflecting the brilliance. The day had begun quietly, but a storm was coming. She could feel it in the air, the tension of the court, the anticipation of the marriage, and the presence of the human who had unexpectedly appeared the night before. Captain Elias Rhine had been invited to speak before the council. Though most of the ministers were skeptical, Elira's firm decision had ensured he would have his chance. She watched him as he entered the room. He walked with calm confidence, carrying nothing but a simple data tablet and his presence. The council shifted uneasily. The human, so far from Earth, seemed entirely out of place in the grandeur of Valora, yet he moved with a quiet authority that made the room sit up and take notice. "Your Highness, council members," Elias began, his voice steady and clear. "I am grateful for the chance to speak. I do not seek to interfere, only to provide perspective." He paused, scanning the room. "I understand that your traditions have served your people well for centuries. I do not wish to undermine them. But I have observed something that concerns me deeply. The proposed marriage may not bring the stability you hope for. In fact, it could create vulnerabilities that may put Valora at risk. They have influence over several minor systems, and they have shown flexibility when it suits them. A marriage alone does not ensure their allegiance. If negotiations fail or are delayed, the political fallout could be severe. Resources could be diverted, and your people may face consequences that a treaty alone cannot prevent." Even those who had dismissed humans as weak or irrelevant could not ignore the clear evidence displayed. Elira's brow furrowed. The human was right. She had feared this, but hearing it explained so logically and calmly made her feel both alarmed and hopeful. Elias continued. "There is also another point to consider. Leadership is not only about contracts or ceremonies. It is about anticipating challenges, understanding your people, and being adaptable. A marriage without genuine consent may appear stable on the surface, but it can breed resentment, weaken trust, and create unrest. Sometimes, following tradition blindly can be more dangerous than breaking it thoughtfully." The marriage had been arranged for duty, not for wisdom or justice. Her people deserved leaders who could see beyond convention. She glanced at Marek, whose face was rigid with disapproval. "Do you hear this?" she whispered to him, loud enough for the council to notice. "He speaks the truth in ways we have ignored. I suggest considering alternatives, exploring options that protect your people while respecting their voices. Sometimes, a fresh perspective, an outsider's viewpoint, can reveal solutions invisible to those immersed in tradition. I want to hear ideas, not warnings." He suggested improving communication networks to allow faster response to threats, and even minor adjustments to Valora's fleet tactics that could give them an edge without escalating conflict. Each proposal was grounded in practical thinking and careful observation of the galaxy's political landscape. The council was shocked. Never before had a human, an outsider, offered such insight into interstellar strategy, blending intelligence, pragmatism, and morality. Many ministers whispered nervously, questioning whether they should even listen. Elira, however, felt a thrill of hope. This human, who came from a world so small and far away, was showing them a way forward that could avoid bloodshed and honor the people. One of the younger ministers, Mynara, finally spoke. "Your Highness, the human suggestions are unconventional, but they are worth considering. They are clever, and they may prevent unforeseen consequences. Perhaps we should study them before proceeding with the ceremony. We cannot trust someone who knows nothing of our culture to dictate our decisions. Your Highness, I do not seek to replace your leadership. I am here to offer a perspective from outside your traditions. It is for you to decide whether it helps your people." Humanity, small and underestimated, could bring clarity that centuries of tradition had not. As the day passed, Aelira worked closely with Elias. They walked through the palace halls, discussing strategies, sharing ideas, and challenging the assumptions of the council. The princess was amazed at the human's creativity. He suggested approaches she had never considered, ways to use the palace's defenses more efficiently, how to negotiate subtly with neighboring systems, even ways to engage the public so they could voice their opinions safely. Elias never acted like a commander ordering troops. Instead, he guided with questions, encouraging the princess and her aides to think critically and act boldly. His calm demeanor and clear reasoning inspired confidence, not fear. Aelira began to see a new form of leadership, one that valued intelligence, courage, and moral conviction over titles, power, or ceremony. That evening, Aelira and Elias met in the palace gardens, far from the council chambers. The gardens were alive with luminescent flowers, their petals glowing softly under the twilight. The air was cool and fragrant, carrying the hum of distant insects and the occasional song of alien birds. "You've changed the council's view already," Aelira said quietly, watching a cluster of flowers shift color as they responded to the fading light. "Many of them are beginning to question the marriage, thanks to you. I only point out possibilities that you already sensed. You have the courage to act. I only help you see clearly. Strength comes in many forms. Some is physical, some is intellectual, and some comes from moral courage, the willingness to do what is right, even when it is difficult. Humans often survive and succeed because of adaptability and ingenuity. We learn quickly and act creatively." She realized that she had underestimated humans as her people had. Perhaps it was not size, tradition, or status that mattered most, but the ability to think, act, and inspire courage in others. Over the next days, Aelira and Elias worked together to prepare for the council meeting where the final decision would be debated. They tested strategies, practiced discussions, and even anticipated possible objections. Elias' ideas were not only practical but clever. He suggested small changes to fleet patrols that would make Valora safer without aggression, and methods to communicate with neighboring systems that reduced misunderstandings. The council could no longer dismiss him as a naive outsider. Each plan he proposed was sound, realistic, and rooted in observation rather than ambition. Aelira watched as ministers who had been firm in their support of the marriage began to nod, whisper, and reconsider. The tide of opinion was slowly shifting, and it was human ingenuity that was driving it. On the eve of the council's final vote, Aelira stood once more on her balcony. The city below glowed in the night, lanterns floating like stars above the clouds. She felt anticipation but not fear. The human beside her had shown her a new way to think, a way to challenge tradition without destroying honor. She understood that the path forward would be difficult, but it was now illuminated by possibility. Elias joined her silently, gazing at the horizon. "Tomorrow will be decisive," he said quietly. "The council will need courage to follow what is right, not what is expected." Somewhere in the distant galaxy, a small human had arrived, bringing insight, creativity, and hope. And in doing so, he had sparked the beginning of change, a change that could reshape the fate of Valora itself. As the palace slept, Aelira felt a sense of resolve. She was no longer just a princess under obligation. She was a leader capable of choice, guided by reason, courage, and the unexpected friendship of a human from far beyond the stars. The galaxy was vast, traditions were strong, but the potential for change had arrived. And it came in the form of one human, small yet brilliant, whose presence had shaken the foundations of an empire and given hope to a princess who had long felt trapped. The morning sky over Valora was clear, but an unusual tension hung in the air. Princess Aelira paced in her private chambers, her silver gown brushing the polished floors. Despite the progress she had made with Captain Elias Rhine, a shadow of unease lingered. The council would meet later that day to debate the future of her marriage, and she knew that some ministers still clung to tradition, unwilling to embrace change. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Lauren entered, carrying a small data pad. "Your Highness, unusual activity has been detected near the outer sectors," he said quietly. "Sensors show multiple ships approaching the perimeter. They are Zethurian vessels. They could be testing our defenses, or they could intend to enforce the treaty by force." The marriage could have exposed vulnerabilities. Now those vulnerabilities were about to be tested. Elias arrived shortly after, calm as ever. He had been reviewing the palace's defense systems, quietly observing and analyzing every detail. When he saw Elira's concern, he placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Do not worry, Princess. We can handle this. But we must act quickly and carefully. We can use their expectations against them. First," he explained, pointing at the displays, "we will reposition our defensive satellites to create false openings. The Zethurians expect standard formations, but we will change patterns at the last moment. This will confuse their targeting systems." His mind worked in ways no Valoran counselor had considered. "And the fleet?" she asked. "They will think they have numerical superiority," Elias said. "We will use smaller, faster craft in hit-and-run formations. They expect a direct defense, but we will strike at key points, not every ship. Precision and timing matter more than raw power. If even one move fails..." She had always known humans were different, but seeing this methodical, calm intelligence in action made her realize how underestimated they had been. She nodded, trusting Elias completely. "Then let us prepare. We will follow your plan." Alarms echoed through the palace, a warning that the invaders were near. Valora's elite guards readied themselves, their armor gleaming, weapons charged. The council gathered in the command center, many of them visibly anxious. Some had dismissed Elias as an outsider, but now they were forced to pay attention. "Princess Elira," Marek said sharply, "we should launch a direct attack. The Zethurians will respect only strength. We must appear vulnerable at first," he explained. "The enemy will take the bait, then we strike precisely where it hurts most." The palace's floating platforms trembled slightly under the weight of anticipation. Then Elias gave the command, "Now." When they engaged, they found nothing but empty space, while precision strikes disabled key enemy engines and communications. Elira watched, her hands gripping the railing of the command center balcony. Her eyes followed the battle unfolding above the clouds. It was unlike any engagement she had seen. Smaller ships outmaneuvered larger ones, guided by Elia's careful planning. The alien fleet's confidence faltered, and confusion spread among their ranks. "Look at that," Lauren whispered. "They are retreating." This human, so far from Earth, had transformed a desperate situation into a controlled operation. She realized once again that ingenuity and courage could overcome raw power. The battle was far from over, but hope had taken root. The command ships of the Zethurian fleet were now in range. Elias directed Valora's smaller vessels in coordinated maneuvers, striking at the enemy's control hubs. Each hit was precise, disabling key systems without unnecessary destruction. The Zethurians struggled to maintain cohesion, their numerical advantage nullified by strategy and quick thinking. "Princess," Elias said, "we need to signal the fleet, show them that surrender or retreat is their best option. Prolonged conflict will only increase risk for your people. We seek peace, but we will defend our people if necessary." Cheers erupted among the council members and guards. Many rushed to congratulate Elias, who only smiled humbly. "You have saved the Empire," Marek said grudgingly, approaching him. "I did not believe it was possible." Without her support, strategy alone could not have succeeded. That night, as the palace returned to its quiet state, Elira and Elias walked through the gardens. The luminescent flowers glowed softly in the twilight, and the city below settled into calm. "You were incredible today," Elira said quietly. "I never imagined a human could understand strategy, politics, and leadership in this way. You have changed how I see everything. And now I will not allow my people to be constrained by fear or tradition alone. I will lead with reason, courage, and care. And I will not let the Zethurians or anyone dictate our future. The galaxy is vast, and challenges will continue to come. But with courage and ingenuity, even the smallest choices can have profound effects." She had seen firsthand how humans, despite their small size and distant origins, could inspire change and achieve the extraordinary. And somewhere in that realization, a bond had formed. Not one of dependence, but of mutual respect and shared purpose. The human had shown her a new path, a path where choice, intellect, and courage mattered more than tradition alone. The stars above Valora shone brighter that night, reflecting the quiet triumph of ingenuity over power, wisdom over expectation, and courage over fear. The princess knew that the journey ahead would be difficult, but with insight, courage, and the unexpected guidance of a human, Valora's future was no longer uncertain. The galaxy had shown her a truth she could not ignore. Even those who seem small and insignificant can leave a mark so great that the stars themselves take notice. The morning air was crisp over Valora, carrying a hint of the sea of clouds beneath the floating city. Princess Aelira stood at the top of the grand balcony, looking out at the horizon where the distant light of the departing Zethurian fleet had finally disappeared. The threat had been neutralized, but the lesson lingered. Power alone could not guarantee safety. Strategy, ingenuity, and courage mattered just as much, if not more. Aelira turned to her aide, Lauren, who waited respectfully behind her. "The council will meet soon," she said softly. "We must decide the next steps carefully. Today I speak not only for myself, but for every citizen of Valora. We will not be guided by fear, tradition, or the demands of those who see people as pawns. Your Highness, some council members may resist openly. They fear change." Many whispered about the human who had arrived from Earth and the strange, successful strategies that had repelled the Zethurian fleet. Some doubted that a being from a distant, weak planet could offer wisdom superior to their own centuries of tradition. Aelira entered the room, her presence commanding attention. The council quieted immediately, all eyes on her. Elias Rhine followed, walking with calm confidence. He carried nothing but the experience of the recent events and the knowledge that Valora's survival had already been shaped by human ingenuity. "Counselors," Aelira began, her voice strong and steady, "we have survived a direct challenge to our city, not by force alone, but by strategy, intelligence, and courage. Today, I ask you to consider what is truly best for Valora, not merely what has been customary for generations. Tradition is not weakness, Merrick, but blind adherence to it without thought or adaptability can be disastrous. We have already seen the consequences of underestimating threats and relying solely on appearances." Holographic displays showed the precision of Valora's defenses, the calculated maneuvers of the smaller craft, and the retreat of the enemy. The room fell silent. Ministers who had doubted the human could not ignore the evidence before their eyes. "Your Highness, Captain Rhine," a younger minister, Mynara, spoke hesitantly, "the strategy used was unorthodox yet effective. The fleet was neutralized without unnecessary damage or casualties. Perhaps the human perspective has value. Learning that courage, intelligence, and adaptability are as important as power and ceremony. Captain Rhine has shown us what is possible when we think differently. That is all." She had always questioned the marriage, and now she had reason and evidence to challenge it openly. "We will not proceed with the marriage under duress," she continued. "We will not allow Valora to be constrained by agreements made without the consent of its leaders or its people. I will find another way to secure peace, a way that respects choice, intelligence, and honor." Merrick finally spoke, his voice strained. "Your Highness, such defiance could be seen as weakness by other systems. If we refuse the Zethurian alliance, they may act against us again. Valora's future will not be decided by intimidation or blind tradition. It will be decided by thought, morality, and the courage to act rightly." For the first time in memory, the princess's voice carried authority not just because of her title, but because it was guided by truth, courage, and clear purpose. After hours of discussion, the council voted. While some hesitated, the majority agreed to support Aelira's decision. The marriage would be postponed indefinitely, and alternative measures would be explored to ensure the safety and prosperity of Valora. Aelira exhaled, a mixture of relief and pride washing over her. She had faced centuries of tradition and uncertainty, and prevailed. Later that evening, Aelira walked with Elias through the palace gardens. The luminescent flowers glowed softly in the twilight, the air alive with the gentle hum of alien insects. The events of the day weighed heavily on her mind, but there was also a lightness she had not felt in years. "You were extraordinary," Elias said quietly, his voice sincere. "You led with courage, intelligence, and heart. Your people will remember this day. It is not about strength or status, it is about ingenuity and courage. You had the courage, Princess, I only helped you see it. That strength comes in many forms, and courage is not limited to warriors or rulers. We will protect Valora, not just through power, but through thought, innovation, and morality. And perhaps one day the galaxy will recognize that even humans, so far away, so small, can leave a mark as great as the stars themselves." For the first time in her life, she felt fully in control of her destiny. The weight of tradition, expectation, and politics had not vanished entirely, but it no longer dictated her choices. With courage, intelligence, and the unexpected guidance of a human, she had proven that even the smallest beings or ideas could achieve extraordinary results. The next day, Elira addressed the people of Valora. Thousands gathered in the main plaza, their faces filled with curiosity and hope. She spoke with clarity, confidence, and warmth, explaining her decision to postpone the marriage and emphasizing the importance of choice, courage, and wisdom in leadership. The crowd responded with cheers, their support a powerful reminder that the people valued honesty and vision over ceremony and tradition alone. Elias stood quietly at her side, watching her inspire the citizens. He had seen many worlds, many leaders, but Elira's courage and intelligence were exceptional. Humans often acted with ingenuity, but the combination of her moral conviction and openness to new ideas made her truly remarkable. As night fell over Valora, the princess and the human walked along the palace balconies once more, looking out over the city. The floating towers shimmered like a constellation, the luminescent gardens glowing softly beneath them. "The Empire has changed today," Elira said, her voice thoughtful. "Not just because we faced the Zethurian fleet, but because we proved that courage and ingenuity matter, that even the smallest or most underestimated can shape the future. Humans often survive and succeed because of these qualities. You have demonstrated them perfectly. And perhaps one day the galaxy will see that humanity, so far away, so small, can inspire and teach even the greatest civilizations." The princess knew that challenges would continue to arise, but with insight, bravery, and the guidance of the unexpected human ally, Valora's future was secure and full of hope. As the night deepened, Elira and Elias stood together in silence, looking out over the city they had both helped to protect. The galaxy was vast, filled with unknown dangers and opportunities, but they had proven that even small acts of courage, creativity, and integrity could shape the destiny of worlds. And in that realization, a quiet truth settled between them. Sometimes, the smallest, most underestimated beings can leave marks so profound that the stars themselves seem to shine in recognition. The morning sky over Valora was calm and golden, reflecting the triumph of the days that had passed. Princess Elira stood atop the palace balcony, the wind playing gently with her silver gown. The city beneath her sparkled in soft blue and silver light, a testament to the resilience of its people and the choices she had made. The threat of the Zethurian fleet had passed, the council had embraced change, and the people of Valora had begun to understand that strength came not only from tradition, but from courage, intelligence, and moral clarity. Yet Elira knew the work was far from over. The Empire still faced the challenges of diplomacy, potential rivals, and the weight of expectations from neighboring systems. Today, she would take the decisive step that would shape Valora's future for generations. Captain Elias Rhine approached, his calm presence reassuring. He had become more than an advisor over the past weeks. He had become a trusted ally and a symbol of the ingenuity that had guided Valora through peril. "Are you ready, Princess?" he asked quietly. "Today, you will not only protect your people, but also prove that courage, intellect, and humanity itself can influence the galaxy. The Empire has learned much, and the time has come to act decisively." "Counselors, citizens of Valora, and honored guests," Elira began, her voice steady and commanding. "We stand at a turning point in our history. Recent events have shown us that strength is not measured solely by tradition, power, or numbers, but by courage, wisdom, and the ability to act thoughtfully. We have faced threats, observed vulnerabilities, and overcome challenges not with brute force, but with intelligence and moral clarity. Today, I make a decision not lightly, but with careful consideration for our people, our allies, and our future," Elira continued. "The proposed marriage will not proceed. We will not allow Valora's destiny to be determined by obligation or fear. Instead, we will engage with neighboring systems, not through coercion or blind tradition, but through diplomacy, trust, and mutual respect." Elia's presence lent credibility to her words, a reminder that even the smallest, most underestimated beings could offer insight that changed the course of entire civilizations. "Princess Elira," Marek finally spoke, his voice tense. "This is unprecedented. You risk the perception of weakness among our allies and enemies alike. How can we ensure the safety of Valora without a binding alliance? Our people are safer because we act with thought and integrity, not because we conform to outdated expectations. Princess Elira has demonstrated these qualities, and through them, Valora has survived challenges that could have overwhelmed more traditional approaches. The people of Valora, watching from the galleries, whispered in excitement and hope. Aelira continued, her voice carrying a sense of vision and determination. We will strengthen our defenses, yes, but we will also strengthen our alliances through diplomacy, shared knowledge, and mutual respect. We will not let fear dictate our decisions. We will act with courage, intelligence, and humanity. The Council embraced new strategies, implementing measures that improved communication with neighboring systems, strengthened defenses without aggression, and encouraged public participation in governance. The people of Valora felt empowered, inspired by a leader who valued their well-being above ceremony or obligation. Elias remained by Aelira's side, offering guidance when needed, but always allowing her to take the lead. His presence reminded everyone that humans, small, underestimated, and far from the center of galactic power, could contribute wisdom and innovation that changed the course of entire civilizations. One evening, after months of progress, Aelira and Elias walked along the palace gardens, illuminated by the soft glow of luminescent flowers. The city below sparkled with life, and the sky above shimmered with countless stars. "You have transformed Valora," Elias said quietly. "Not just by surviving threats, but by inspiring your people to think differently, to act with courage, and to embrace change. Humans often succeed by observing, adapting, and acting with purpose. You have demonstrated that the same qualities can exist in leaders of any civilization. Your courage and insight have created a path for a safer, brighter future." But Valora has learned a vital lesson, that even the smallest voices, when guided by courage and wisdom, can shape destiny. Even humans from distant worlds can leave an impact greater than their size might suggest. Diplomatic relations improved, trade prospered, and Valora became a beacon of innovation, morality, and courage. Princess Aelira continued to rule with wisdom and clarity, earning respect not only for her lineage but for her intellect, empathy, and courage. Elias, though far from his home planet, became a valued advisor and a bridge between humanity and Valora. He never sought power, only to offer guidance and insight, demonstrating that influence could be achieved through ingenuity, observation, and moral conviction. One quiet evening, Aelira stood on her balcony, gazing at the stars that stretched endlessly across the sky. She thought of Earth, a distant blue planet, and the human who had changed the course of her life and her empire. "You have shown me a truth I will never forget," she said softly, as if speaking to the stars themselves. "That courage, intelligence, and integrity matter more than power, and that even the smallest beings can inspire change across the galaxy. You have done the same, Princess. The galaxy has seen that now. And perhaps humanity will continue to show that even distant, underestimated worlds can shape the course of history." The galaxy was vast, filled with unknown challenges and opportunities, but Valora was ready. The people had learned that strength was not only in power or ceremony, but in ingenuity, courage, and moral clarity. They had witnessed firsthand that even a single human, underestimated and far away from the centers of power, could help shape destiny. As the night deepened, Aelira and Elias stood together, knowing that their work had made a lasting impact. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, reflecting the quiet triumph of bravery, intelligence, and the courage to embrace change. Valora had survived and thrived, not through fear or coercion, but through thought, ingenuity, and the boldness to do what was right. And somewhere among the distant stars, the influence of humanity had been felt, leaving a mark that would endure for generations. The princess understood that the galaxy had room for new ideas, for unexpected allies, and for those willing to think differently. And she knew with certainty that even the smallest, most underestimated beings, humans among them, could inspire courage, wisdom, and hope across worlds. And so, under the glow of countless stars, Valora looked toward the future, guided by courage, intelligence, and the enduring truth that even one human, arriving at the right moment, could change everything.